I'm going to introduce to you the 360 wave. Let me go ahead and advance it here so you can see it. And so we're going to talk about closing and starter all at one time. Because as this runs through the sidewall, guess what it does? It gets kind of fun as you watch it. Let me get to a new sheet of paper. So you see all the closing systems that are out there in the industry, and they're a dime a dozen, and there's some good ones. But we talk about how do we create the perfect environment. So if I'm going to go out here and put out 38,000 seeds, maybe I'm weird in my mind, I expect 38,000 ears. I wrote a check to Brad Souter for this, and Brad's my pioneer dealer, and I'm saying, Brad, I expect everyone to grow, and we're going to have sessions on this. I realize that maybe I'm a touch optimistic. Maybe we'll have to settle for 37,000 ears, but I don't want to back up. So closing is critical. And for years, we do what? We come in and we got spike wheels, we got Case and other companies got curved disc in here, and we're slamming this shut. So what it looks like is you bring the two halves together and you force them together, and you hope that the soil moisture is such that when it starts to dry out, it doesn't open up. What happens if the sun's shining up here, and right here at the surface, this opens up a little bit, and we got a spike coming up here, and we get light down here? What happens to that spike? What's it do? It immediately does what? Photosynthesis, and it uncurls, and it starts to open up, and then it starts to bend over. And it makes two loops, and you look at that, and you say, I either need to call the Pioneer dealer, or I need to call Mark Bear Sun Ag, because I obviously have some chemical damage here. Something is wrong. All you had was a closing system that let enough light in that photosynthesis took place. So I challenged our team, and I said what we really need, and I saw that for years, and this style of a shoe that comes through the sidewall, it would actually envelope. We call it the wave because it creates a wave. It takes this sidewall here, so this is coming through here like this. It creates a wave. So now the seed is totally enveloped for about the first 1 inch. Moist dirt, nothing off the top here, dry. All this dry falls in. That's always a train wreck. I'll show you pictures of it. And so now we're taking and we're cutting the right-hand sidewall, and we take it over the top. So yes, it's going to be a starter attachment, but what it really is a closing system. Because over the years, when Ferry and I worked with these originals back in '92, we had a problem. Ferry would make me take these off that 8-row test planter when we're checking another starter system to it. Why? Because if we left it on, it would always raise 1.1 to 1.5 seeds plants more due to the fact we're creating this wave effect. So we knew the problems with it. It was hard to mount. We fixed that. The problem is the guys in stone, if this shoe was in there and they hit a rock, the planter would jump up, and it'd either break something or it would jump up and we'd have shallow seed. And so I challenged Justin and his team, and I said, look, let's keep it simple. We could go ahead and put a lot of electronics on this. But they figured out, so all the design is in the sweep of this knife. And so it's got the ability to always self-go in the trench. So when you start turning a corner, because I know not everybody farms every row straight. So you're out here and you're planting and you start to turn to the right. Our shoe is designed, the design that it turns to the right, and we keep that 3/4 inch. So the seeds here, starters here, seeds here, starters here. And so we designed it so that we never get starter on the seed. So I'll just show you a little animation of it here. We'll just take a look at it. So it's going to mount that it's always square in the seed. We'll watch it run here. You'll see the blue is the starter. It'll come around. So it's running right through the right-hand side of the wall. You can see it's waving that soil right over the top of the seed. You can see the blue is going to be over deeper than the seed and 3/4 over. And so we're going to look for some really good effects. So if you said, Greg, I don't believe in starter, I'll never use starter, I still get pretty excited about the closing concept here. Now, I can go with the OEM closing system. All it's got to do is finish the top 3/4, get it lightly firmed. We have all the moisture we need to fire this off and let it go. So let's look at it. So Tim, we're going to demonstrate here the wave. We got a little research planner that we play around with. So we're going to have Talon come in here and take a pretty sharp right turn. We just want to demonstrate as we turn around terraces and creek bottoms and different shaped fields, are we keeping product off of the seed? No matter what we design and all the history for Tim and I, from precision to 360, we said we shall do no harm. You folks invest a lot of money into seed and genetics and fertility, so we wanted to have a perfect match. So Talon, why don't you come up, we'll make a turn. We'll have a camera, you got 5 TVs. Holler out if you can't see it, but hopefully you'll be able to see on the monitors up close work. Still a little wet over there where I added water that night. You can see our road cleaners are picking up quite a bit. It gets better as we come this way. For those of you that got a 24-row planter, you just got nervous when you saw him turn this sharp. This is a good opportunity for your deer dealer to sell you a new row unit. So, but we'll go ahead and start. Tim, I never have introduced you all week. Do you need an introduction?
Probably should.
Probably. So Tim's the oldest of Cindy and I's kids, and he runs the research. He's the old grandfather of 2020 and all those things and field view. So does that make you feel old?
I am feeling old now, yeah. But I get a chance to work with great guys like Steve and Talon here, and we've been having a lot of fun working on the Wave project really since a year ago this spring. Started in earnest. So we've had quite a bit of experience with it. Hopefully you had a chance to see it in Justin's session. As you guys got a chance to dig behind it, I'm hoping in the sand bench, but we're running out in some more real-life conditions here, and you can see as we're making this turn, and it's probably pretty intuitive that as the value of starter shows up as we get close to that seed, and as Justin was describing, the radical roots and the crown roots both being able to intercept that band, we know as we get close we've got to be careful, and that's where the joints are built into this design. So just to start with how we mount it, we can mount it off the front of Bandit with an added bracket up here in this area. And in the case of a row unit that doesn't have Bandit yet, we're going to replace this casting, which gives us this machine face right here that's good and consistent location to compare against where our opening discs are. And so we're going to get that joint at the front that this blade pivots on side to side in the correct position. And this blade acts just like a trailer behind your truck. It's going to follow that hitch pin that's up front. And the blade design itself, the way the angles are bent and the slant sharp feature here along the bottom, work together to get the soil forces on each side to balance out, so that as we're going straight, we're pushed hard up against this stop. We can't come more to the left to get in with our seed. And as we turn to the right, if I'm the blade pointed back at you, as I turn to the right, it's going to want to kick into where our seed is. But that's where this joint takes effect, and it goes into action, and the blade itself is going to move to the right relative to the seed, so that the gap in here stays the same. We'll see that here in a second. So that's the first joint. It's really simple in that it's all mechanical. There's no electronics, no sensors, nothing to do as far as actuation, and we like that. That's really the key to the design that the guys have done a lot of work on, making sure this blade stays in the right place.
Let's make this really simplistic. I don't want air actuators and electric actuators and understanding the planter's turning at a 35-degree angle right now. It needs to be here. I said if we're smart enough that we can make it never fail because it's in the ground and it's seeking always to cut that right-hand side trench off. I love simple. And we got plenty of technology in our ag world, with computer technology and everything else, that we don't need to make it any harder than it needs to be. And we just didn't know with the angles. So after several months of continuous work, I really like where it's at. And so we'll be able to show you here.
You bet. And then as you've seen before, it's a firmer up front, getting the seed pressed down where we want it. And then the joint here, the second joint, allowing us to go up and over obstacles. As you can see, I can pull that blade up and it's going to move out of the way versus causing the row unit to lose depth or worst case bending or breaking something. So we're looking forward to testing it a lot more next spring. We've got hundreds of acres on it this last spring, and we'll be in a beta test coming up. So we're excited to have you guys get a chance to run it with us. We've got wear treatment on both sides of the blade, a differential amount so that it causes it to self-sharpen over time, which is going to maintain our trailing ability, which we'll show you right here. An air hose does a great job of showing you what's going on underground. So if you ever take an air tank to the field behind your planter, you might learn something on how your system's working. So we're in the steep part of the curve here. We'll get it opened up and show you what it looks like.
There you go. That looks really good, Tim. I'm going to put my knife right where the opening disc is. And then are you in the shade, Steve? Does it look a little better? Worse or better in the shade or sun, JT?
You see that okay? Yeah.
You okay? So you can see right here where the wave knife, so the starter's here, my seed to be here. We're 3/4 of an inch over, and we got a deeper placement of starter than we would have if we had a seed here. We're going to plant live seed in front of you. We just wanted to show on the arc that we don't have a blade that's coming over and dropping a lot of salt right on top of the seed. Because as we talk about what levels, you already went through Justin's session, you can see where Greg's going to be next year. When it comes to starter, I really get excited about a 15-gallon level. With dash, we're going to have, what, a 2-inch dash, so I'm actually effectively playing for 5. I can afford $15 an acre. I'm not too excited about spending $45 an acre. And so this here starts to really make a difference for us. Let's talk about this international row unit a little bit, Tim.
For those that are running case planters, now this would be with nitrogen in our Bandit system. We're using the same style of hose guides for a beta test next spring, mounted here off some simple brackets on each side of your closing system to be able to direct nitrogen in right alongside these closing discs. So it's going to be an option for case guys. If you're here today with a case system between tanks and cord heads and Bandit, we've done some work for you to be able to bring those kinds of technologies into your system. So just wanted to give you a glimpse of that. Both the chains here on the back as well as the hose guides mounted here alongside with these brackets. We've done some work to adopt the Bandit technology into case planters for next spring. We'll be in a beta test with those as well. So between Wave and Bandit, we're showing you the planter attachments here. We're going to run up now, Phil, next to our 8-row with starter, immobile nutrients. Placement matters. So with Wave, we're caring about the placement side to side, being that 3/4 of an inch away, but near the seed in the root system. With Dash, we're focused on the linear placement up and down the row. And Justin talked to you about the ROI there of what we've seen, that concentration is what the plant is responding to. So if we can create a hot zone that gives it a chance to get that spike and up and running and get things off at a faster pace, we can do that with less product overall by concentrating it next to the seed. So the combination of Wave and Dash is something we're pretty excited about. You'll be able to run each independent of each other, but you can run them together, and I think that's going to do a lot of good for us. So let's go ahead and run a little bit. We'll let Talon just go a few feet here with seed, and we'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so to start with, as I mentioned, row 8 here that's closest to you is just a standard seed firmer. We're using the rubber closing wheels in this case, and we'll go ahead and put a little air to this and show you what you can find underground. So if you can see on the camera pretty quickly, you can find where the track is from each wheel, here and here. As I start to work in the middle, now you can start to see this seam open up, and this is a really good picture right here we need to capture. I've got a seed here, and as I put some air to it, you can find that it's opened up still underground. Now there's some dry dirt in with this seed. If you can see the color contrast, darker here, lighter here. So while that trench has been open for that 18 or 20 inches right along this seed, you put a little more air to open him up again. You can even see there's more of a void there behind, and I can see dry dirt down in here. So I'll try to get it to the side, Steve, and let you get in close on that.
You need us to shade it, or can I see it in the bright sun?
See that okay? So you can run different closing wheels, from cast to spike, Schlegel's. There's a lot of good ones out there. Work well in your particular system. You probably have your favorite. The goal here with Wave is no matter which one you run, you can keep that closing system, and we're going to make its job easier. We're taking some of that moist soil off the sidewall, and we're folding it over on the left-hand side like you saw on the sand bench. And it's working out here in this real conditions where today it's starting to dry out. This is becoming more normal planting, and it's just a tough challenge in the case of these rubber wheels to come from the top and the side and press those two sidewalls together. There's not much stitching action going on versus here on this other side with Wave, Now we've given it some loose material to work with. We've come alongside and we've pressed it over the seed. We're also shielding that seed early on, so now we don't have all this exposed space between opening and closing after our gauge wheels go by, to where dry dirt's going to have the chance to get in. That's a lot less likely with wave. We'll go ahead and open this up. Getting to where the blade ran, you can see that here. So now the soil that's between where the knife is and this point right here where the left-hand sidewall was, that's all the wave soil that's been cut over and moved to the side. So we've taken the sidewall, folded it over, and that's this material here. So now as I bring the air to it, you can see it starts to come free. Right there's the seed. So you saw where that soil was before I blew it out. It filled in from here up to here. Now as I've come and taken the air to it, you can see where the seed's been firmed in. He's been pressed in and covered top and bottom. This all the way up in here is where the wave ran, and here you can see where the blade is. So this is really a perfect example as far as we're a little bit below the seed, we're off to the side, that 3/4 of an inch from here to here. You can see.
Oh, it just makes me excited.
I'll take that every time. I'll take that every time.
Why don't we show them here? Let's keep blowing. Just show them where the Bandit is. So we talk about starter 3/4 of an inch away. Show them where the nitrogen is here.
You bet. So from here forward through the rest of this beginning portion of the session, we're talking about our nitrogen system. And for us, we know we've got to get it off to a great start. We need nitrogen early in the season to be close, protect against that immobilization that's going to occur like you saw in that corn-on-corn plot with Dave and Larry and those guys. So Bandit's really key for that. So we'll go ahead and run and show you where that is here off to the side. So 3 inches here to the side. Here's where the center would be. We've come over here and we're applying underground. So from the you can see where the chains have closed it off. You got it here in this row too. Might be an easy way to see it. Right there you go. So here's where our liquid nitrogen is going to be. Here 3 inches off to the side. On both sides you've got that split. Able to run more gallons that way by splitting it half and half on each side. That full root system is going to have access to that. So kicking off our nitrogen program with Bandit is a big part of how it works for us. You can see we're mounted in the middle of the row unit here, a disc on each side. We just shift a little bit of soil to the side for our hose guide to run, dispensing the product right here. And those hose guides are able to flex with terrain, as well as the disc itself is on a pivot with a spring force that is adjustable. There's 3 positions. You can run in harder soil that way, increase that force. But overall, we're not trying to go 2 inches deep. And hopefully the guys explain a little bit as far as how nitrogen behaves with water. We want to deposit that a little bit higher in the system, 1 inch deep, 3/4 of an inch deep, just get it underground to where it's safe. And from there, we're going to let water take it down and spread it out a little bit. So that as our root system develops, we've diluted whatever salt content is there. We've started to spread that across more area.
You take a young corn plant, until it gets to V5, it's living off of mama seed. And so the starch inside that seed is feeding that plant. There is no root system. You got your little radicle and seminal root, but your crown roots are just starting to grow. And so when we put it up at 3/4, as that nitrogen starts to move through the profile, we intersect the #1 crown root just coming out of the crown. And so we live in a really good spot. Just like when you walk by the steak table and you went down the buffet line, same thing here. So we want starter really close. I want that radicle to get a sniff of that phosphates immediately, and it starts to just bush out. When you look at a radicle that's been feeding in a starter band under a microscope, it's amazing the amount of hair roots. It looks like your farm dog's back, just tons of hair. And the same thing though, if we had nitrogen, it's not going to get picked up until the crown roots themselves start to get into it. A radicle that can't bring a lot of nitrogen in. So that plant's happy and sassy, living off of mama, pretty happy, and all of a sudden the seed dries up, and you're handing the baton right over to the root system. If there's a hiccup in that race, if that baton drops, you're going to affect rows around, because that's nature's cruel little trick. The exact day you're deciding how many rows around an ear is the exact day you're handing the baton over to the crown roots. So if we slick the sidewalls, if we don't understand planter management, we got really nervous. It's June first, and we got to plant corn and we're mudding it in, remember that handoff gets pretty troublesome. And every row around that ear is worth 10 bushel to you. And so if you went from a 16 to a 14, that's what we talk about. So we got to keep all that in mind as we go through our farming system. And so when we design technology, this is cut it to the quick, Tim. When we really design technology, it's for you and I. I always tell Tim, here's what I need, Tim. Figure this out. This is what I want. And he goes to work of a great team. It's kind of for selfish reasons. I'm excited that I can show it to you because I think there's a tremendous lot of value in the things that we do with planters over the years. But it's just simple stuff that we just got to think like a corn plant. Anything else, Tim?
No, I think we're good here.
Let's jump over to the 26 row. So how do we make it super efficient? We got tanks on the tractor. We designed tanks, and I designed them so that they put weight on the rear axle. You start putting a lot of weight out on that front wheel drive, we're going to start to create pinch rows. When you see two tires like that together, you realize the row in between them, there's not a happy root in that row. And so we're talking about carrying 700 gallon on the tractor. We know you got a 400 gallon on the planter. So in our case, we got starter in the middle tank, we got nitrogen in the front tanks, but how do we keep them at the bare bones? And we're going to show you that with Gators, we have the opportunity to have the planter never stop. The only time he's got to stop is for seed. This is a seed corn planter. We can load 300 acres of seed pretty easy. We stop occasionally, put the male rows in, but the CCS is going to all the female rows. And so it's a 26 row planter. These are male rows on the outside. Every 5th row from that's male corn. This planter obviously has Bandit. You can see that it's on there. It's got the chains behind. It's a high-speed planter. This planter runs about 9 to 8.5 mile an hour. And so as we talk about how much liquid we can carry, how much liquid should we carry? So in this case, come on in, guys. We'll let you come in. You're going to see the clear tubes above each. Andy's on the far Gator is going to be pumping to the tractor. Cameron here on the close Gator is going to be pumping nitrogen here. So the Sprint that you see has 300 gallon capacity. It's got a horsepower motor in the back of a 2-inch system. And so go ahead, guys, you can hook up. And so it can pump that 300 gallon in a little less than 3 minutes. He's going to come in and connect in the funnel. It's spring-loaded latches. If the planter wanted to pull him, it could. We don't, obviously. He's keeping his foot on the gas. He's coasting along. Those Gators are in low 4-wheel drive. If they want, they kick in when they're empty and at a high, and they're right back to semi. We pull the Gator. If you're looking up there, you should be able to see water rushing in. You can see water coming into the tank. And so as we talk about how do we get the Gator to the field, we hook it right behind the planter. The boom itself is a hitch. Cameron, that's driving here, runs a semi. So he's got liquid. He's bringing 6,000 gallons of nitrogen to the field. When he gets there, the first thing the planter guy does is pull the hitch pin. The Gator's sitting at the gate. He starts planting. Cameron pulls up. We got a 3-inch fill system on the semi. In 2 minutes, he's full. He immediately catches the planter in the headlands. Gives him 300, turns around and goes back. And so those are things we just do all day long. I had a gentleman here yesterday from Wisconsin. He had a 16-row Kinsey. And he said, Greg, they demoed a Gator to me, a Sprint system. He said, I planted 100 more acres on the day the Sprint was there than the day before. He said, I'm going to own a Sprint. I'm not wanting to move to a 24 row. I just want to keep the 16 more efficient. And so those are things that we look at. So you can see he's pumping water. He's got it about half full. You just saw him blow it. You saw the hose change. So if he was going to bring starter the next load, he just used air. It's got an air compressor system. He just dumped all the air through the system. So if he's going to bring starter in, he's not going to have a high salt content. We have a funnel on each side, so if it's the open Gator, he's always out of the dirt. Cab Gator doesn't really make a difference. So either one. I would say the 30 systems I got out across the nation, I would say 60% of them are cab Gators and about 40% are open station Gators. So it's just helping us maintain. For me, Bandit on a planter is just a no-brainer. That's a free pass for us. No sprayer had to run. We're going to be in the field with the planter. We know the position of the row, and now we're what we call in the sweet spot itself.